The easiest pumpkin cakes you'll ever make, super realistic, all buttercream, and all with one hack. Here I have a sheet cake of my favorite pumpkin cake. You can find the recipe below. For my 4-inch pumpkin, I'm starting off with 2 cutters, one that is 4-inch and one that is slightly smaller. I'm going to cut out as many rounds as I can from this sheet. However, I will only use 2 of each size, resulting in 4 layers to make this pumpkin. I will start off with one of the smaller rounds, and then I will put the 2 regular size rounds on top of that, and then end with another small round, giving us the beginning of our pumpkin shape. A good rule of thumb is to at least make your pumpkin as tall as it is wide. So mine is 4 inches wide, so I'm going to make sure it's at least 4 inches tall. Now with that being said, of course have fun. You can go taller. I just try to avoid making it too short because it doesn't really result in the most realistic looking pumpkin. This pumpkin doesn't require too much carving. We're just gonna round off that top edge, and then we're just gonna carve into the center there where the stem will go. We're going to give this a crumb coat and let it chill in the fridge for a bit. This isn't 100% necessary, but I do find that it helps make the next step a little bit easier to handle. Next, you're going to take some twine and you're going to lay out 6 strips evenly spread out just like this. And just make sure that your strings are long enough to go all the way around your cake. You're also going to lay out some plastic wrap. Same thing goes for this. You want to make sure it can wrap all the way around your cake. Starting from the middle, we're going to pipe a generous pancake of icing onto the plastic wrap, making sure that it's wide enough for our pumpkin to sit within. Next, we're gonna grab that chilled pumpkin and place it right on top. We're gonna do another layer of icing. This does not need to be perfect, just don't go too thin. You just need enough icing so we can create that effect. Next, we're just simply gonna take our plastic wrap and gather it at the top. I started with each side and then I gathered it, hoping to avoid having too many wrinkles. Don't worry too much about this because the wrinkles actually give it a little bit of realism. So again, don't worry too much, but you can then take your hand and start to shape the bottom and just make sure it's nice and soft. And then at the very top, you can gather it together and push down to create where that stem is going to sit. Now let's take each one of those strings and gather them at the top. We're going to pull nice and taut, and this is going to push the icing out, and we are going to create our ridges. Now I will say, gathering all the strings at once was a little bit more difficult than I expected. I didn't feel like I had as much control as I liked. I prefer the technique I used with my mini version of the pumpkin, where instead I pulled each string over top individually, allowing me to place the pumpkin ridges with more care and control. So I do suggest doing it that way, just for a little bit more control. Now you can place this in the fridge or freezer until it's solid. All right, this pumpkin is nice and solid now. We can unwrap it. Now we do want to be careful when we unwrap it because some of that buttercream may have gotten caught up in some of those wrinkles. Now I know what you're thinking. What about all this texture that was left behind? What am I supposed to do with that? Super easy. We're just going to take some soft buttercream and a paintbrush and we are going to fill them. It's super fast and it really ends up looking just like a pumpkin because the leftover texture from the wrinkles mixed with the softer effect of the paintbrush and the buttercream really gives that look. I'm also going to add a little bit on the top and just make sure that transition is nice and smooth. All right, so once you've got it smooth to your liking, we are going to add a stem. Now, I'm going to do it with a little piece of spaghetti. This is going to act as a support so I can create a longer stem. You do not have to do this. You can just use buttercream if you like. Using a 32 tip, I'm going to place my icing tip over the spaghetti and then I'm going to pipe and push as I pull up. I'm then going to switch my piping tip out to a small round and I'm going to pipe the little base. Now I ended up not loving this, so I decided to just take a pair of scissors and pull it right off. Now I'm gonna do the exact same thing, but as I'm adding pressure, I'm going to turn my turntable and we're going to create a nice twisted stem. To add a little bit more interest and realism, I'm gonna take that smaller round tip again and pipe just a little bit more texture into that stem, and we've got our stem. I'm gonna place this back into the refrigerator so it gets nice and cold again before we add our finishing touches, which is just a little bit of paint. When it comes to painting buttercream, you're gonna wanna make sure that you use something that will work well with something that is fat-based like buttercream. So you don't want to use anything water-based. You want to use something that either has a high alcohol content or that is oil-based. We're going to be using Karen Portoleo's paints and her slow dilution. So that's going to be perfect for being able to move the color around a little bit without having to worry about it drying up too fast if we just use high proof alcohol. Alternatively, you could also paint this with a little bit of shortening and a little bit of your favorite color dusts. That would work great on buttercream as it is also fat-based and it'll move around really easily. All right, so with our pumpkin fresh out of the fridge, nice and cold, I'm gonna go straight into painting that stem. Because that stem has so much texture to it, I don't want that stem to come to room temperature too quickly, because once my brush starts brushing on the softer buttercream, I know I'm gonna ruin that texture I've created. So I wanna make sure I paint it while it's cold. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of white to the textured part of the stem, creating that natural white, kind of dried pumpkin stem look. We're then gonna take some deeper orange and we're just gonna come through with the ridges of the pumpkin, and I'm just gonna add some lines of deep orange. I'm then gonna come through with a larger brush and start to buff those out and really make it look nice and blended. We're then gonna take just a little bit of mossy green and some yellows and stipple that up around the top of the stem. All right, guys, that's it. That's our pumpkin. And if you know me, you know that this season is my favorite season, which means inside of the school, we have so many Halloween tutorials. Be sure to check out our full-size ganache pumpkin that you can actually carve like a real pumpkin, and all of our other Halloween tutorials. There's too many to list. I will see you inside the school. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I cannot wait to see yours. I hope this is a super quick, easy way for you to pump out some pumpkins this year. I'm gonna close this tutorial out with me making a mini version of this exact same technique, so you can see how easy it is to make this with any size cake you want. You can make it with 2 cupcakes, you can make it a full-size pumpkin. It really doesn't matter. As long as you have enough saran wrap and string, you should be good to go. All right, please let me know if this is something you're going to make for yourself, your family, or your clients. I'm dying to know. And that pretty much wraps it up. I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.